This is a story about a misunderstanding. The kind of misunderstanding that can occur when someone from one place travels to another place. The story begins with the body of a Japanese girl in a field outside of Fargo, North Dakota. How did she die, and what was she doing there? Her death became a massive news story around the world within days. It was reported that the girl, a Tokyo resident named Takako Kanishi, had somehow confused the movie Fargo with real life. She'd apparently flown to America on a quest to find the fictional ransom money buried by Steve Buscemi in the film. The Coen brothers had called Fargo a true story. It wasn't. That was just a joke. The Japanese girl didn't get it, or so it seemed. Her story was just one of those crazy little things you were supposed to laugh at, then turn the page. But I couldn't. So I went to Fargo and found a true story that was altogether more ordinary than I expected. Easier to understand, but harder to forget. She was first seen wandering around a truck stop on the outskirts of Bismarck, North Dakota, a few hundred miles away from Fargo. A long-haul trucker stopped to see if she needed any help. He dropped her off at the police station and drove off without leaving his name.
Seeing her sitting there, and I went over, and first thing I noticed right away was, the weather was cold outside, and this girl was not dressed for North Dakota winter. She had a very short skirt on, high boots. I assumed that she had probably been a stripper or something just by the way she was dressed. Girls in North Dakota dress differently, probably because of the cold weather. So I went over and tried talking to her, and of course she didn't speak English and I didn't speak Japanese, trying to find out where she wanted to go.
The girl pulled out a map drawn with her own hand. She kept pointing at it, saying something he couldn't understand.
She had a piece of paper that had a drawing on it of a road and then a tree, hand drawn on there, nothing else. And that's where she wanted to go. North Dakota, pretty much anywhere you look, there's a road and a tree. That's how North Dakota is.
Officer Jesse Hellman needed a Japanese translator. He decided to call on some local takeaways for assistance. Unfortunately, the boss of the Golden Dragon was Chinese. Over at the Fortune Cookie, they were Chinese too. The China Garden was closed. Jesse reviewed his police work. There had to be an explanation. What happened next is how the whole misunderstanding started.
After I'd gotten off the phone, other officers said, she's looking for some money. Through trying to make conversation with her, she had said Fargo, the movie Fargo. I actually have never seen the movie Fargo, but another officer that was in the station said that in the movie there was some money that was buried, apparently by a tree on this road. So then we started thinking that maybe she had a false impression of the movie, thinking that somewhere along a road by a tree there was a bunch of money buried. She flew all the way here from Japan looking for this money, There is no money, and he goes, I tried telling her there's no money. After this, I guess we just didn't know how we could help her, what we could do for her. She was, like I said, she was not under arrest. We can't hold her for anything. I told her I could take her to the bus station. She agreed with that. She wanted to go to Fargo. On the way to the bus station, I was trying to make small talk. She had grabbed with both hands, she had grabbed her stomach and pointed to it and said something in Japanese. I had asked her, are you sick? And she said something that sounded like cancer to me. So I said, you have cancer? And she said, yes, cancer. And she pointed to her stomach. I'd asked her, how long? And she said something like 6 months. I don't know if she had cancer for 6 months or if she had 6 months to live. I didn't know how to take that. And I didn't want to ask her any more questions about it because I felt bad for her. I did my best, but I still didn't feel good about it because it just didn't. I didn't know what else I could do though. I'm not sure what I thought was going to happen to her. I felt really bad when I left because I didn't think I helped her at all, but I didn't know what else I could do to help her.
I followed Takako down that long, straight road to Fargo. For hours, it seemed as if the only thing that changed in the landscape were the numbers on the signs by the side of the road. Everything that was not nothing stood out. A buffalo, an accident, a trucker on an endless journey. It was like a stage set, but it wasn't. It was real. But don't the movies make everything look real, too? And there she was, in a place called Fargo.
Oh God, she's dead.
I traveled back into Takako's life, back to where her story began. Where else could I go to find out who that real girl really was? I walked through the quiet streets of old Tokyo, in Shinjuku district, where she'd once lived. Life went on without her. Of course, she'd left it all behind. Her landlady invited me in for tea. She wanted to understand, too. It seemed that Takako had once been just another normal Japanese girl. Obedient, the landlady remembered fondly. A country girl who had left home for the big city, made her life there as an office girl for a travel agency. She seemed happy. Then one day, the travel agency went bankrupt. She couldn't find another job. Everything changed for her. She checked into a budget motel 2 blocks from the Fargo bus station.
The first time I saw her, just working my usual shift at the desk, and this rather attractive young Japanese girl came up. Well, I thought she was a very attractive young lady. I was happy to help her. It's nice when you can help an attractive young woman. I think she was a little lonely. I don't think she was very happy. Looked like she was tired. People aren't generally at their happiest when I see them on my shift.
Maybe she was tired of being alone. He says he caught her eye. Steve, the owner of the motel bar. He wanted to tell me a story about her.
She came in. She had a map in front of her of North Dakota. She asked me if there was a good place to watch the stars. And she wanted me to watch the stars with her and watch a movie with her. And she wanted to have a drink with me after work. And I said, well, actually, I have a girlfriend who I love. Sorry, that's just not an option.
Her neighbor was a psychology student at the university. He and his friends thought she was pretty, but she just ignored them. He invited me into the flat where she used to live. He lived there now. He said that she kept away from the light, showed me how she always covered her window with cardboard during the day. She went to work at midnight. Through the thin walls, he would hear her return home every morning at dawn. A few times he heard yelling, furniture being knocked over, like a fight was going on. But he knew she was there alone. One day, the girl turned up at her door, covered in blood. She had lost her keys. She was drunk. She wouldn't say what else had happened. Whenever the landlady saw her after that, she was drunk. One day, Takako said that she was going back home to her parents, back to the small town she had once tried to escape forever. A few weeks later, her mother called, asking whether the landlady had seen her. But I thought Takako was back home with you, she said. Takako left Fargo in the morning, left without showing anyone her treasure map, without looking for the briefcase full of cash. Maybe she wasn't in Fargo because of the movie at all. The hotel records showed that she had made a long-distance call from her room, 40 minutes to a phone number in Singapore. It was the last call she ever made. Later, I discovered that Takako once had an American boyfriend in Tokyo and that he had left there for a job in Singapore. Did her journey to Fargo have something to do with him and not the movie? Whatever the reason, but the next day, she would be dead. She was on the road out of Fargo, on her way to a small town, Detroit Lakes, just over the Minnesota border. The night clerk had said it was a perfect place to watch the stars.
I did not ask her what she was doing in the States. I've driven a taxi for 14 years, and I have found that a customer can come right out and tell me, I don't feel like talking, just drive.
They arrived in the frozen resort town. She wanted to be let out on the far side of the lake.
There are very few homes there. There are no hotels, there are no motels. Some people may be afraid of dogs or wild animals. This didn't seem to concern her at all.
A few hours later, she was sighted by a housewife named Deb Kruger. She lived on Dead Shot Circle at the edge of the forest.
I first saw her when I was going out to my burning barrel to burn the garbage. I saw a figure down at the end of the road, and then I saw her going up towards the hill, kind of running. I was startled by her because I'm not used to seeing anyone usually on the hill, and it was right close to Halloween time. So I came in the house and I said to my kids, you guys, there's a witch on the hill. So to calm them, I said, well, we just rebuke any influence of a witch and we ask Jesus' protection.
The last people to see her alive were two friends, Scott and Jeff, who work for J&K Marine.
We're driving and he...
You caught her out of the corner over your eye. He goes, there's some dude
running in his underwear down the hill. I go, what? And I look back. I go, no, that's a chick. You know, and I go, we should stop and, see what she wants, maybe. And then I was like, no, let's go. And Scott, he stopped. Yeah. We tried to make conversation with her.
We asked her what she was doing, but it was really choppy accent. It was hard to understand, so.
It wasn't English.
So we kept trying to ask her where she needed to go. And
No, we thought she worked at the Chinese Dragon.
Jeff asked her if she was a waitress, and she said, yeah, how you know?
All of a sudden, she's like, right here, stop. And she knew how to say stop. Didn't she say stop?
I can't remember.
I don't know.
They knew nothing about her at first, not even her name. Just that she was there, an Oriental girl, dead in the forest, out by the Marty Salman place. The investigation couldn't start until daybreak. A policewoman watched over the body all night.
Well, it was treated as a potential homicide because of the fact that she's a young woman and was found by herself in a remote area, and there was some evidence that there perhaps might have been another person there.
Well, this location, as the crow flies, is probably 1.5 miles, 2 miles off of a very major thoroughfare, US Highway 10. It would not be unusual in a homicide for the body to be dumped someplace down the road, very close to a major thoroughfare like that. And so that was one of the...
We found no evidence of trauma. Once we undressed her, I did various things to determine if she'd been sexually assaulted or if she'd been harmed in any way, and there was no evidence of that, to be sure that this wasn't a homicide.
That was very real possibility for this to have been a death due to exposure. She wasn't dressed for that type of weather, and so we really had to consider that possibility too.
We ended up finding a number of substances in her bloodstream, but none of them appeared to be lethal. The police had some concerns about stomach cancer because of a conversation with her. I looked for stomach cancer during the autopsy and found no evidence of stomach cancer.
So Takako didn't have stomach cancer. Either she lied to Jesse for some reason, or he got it wrong. So why did she die? And why here? The police discovered she had been to the States 3 times in recent years, landing each time in Minnesota. If the movie didn't bring her here, what did? Takako had left all her belongings behind. The landlady gave everything away, except her music box. She found a tape inside, Takako's favorite song. The landlady listened to it all the time. The song was about a man who left a girl behind. The landlady started to cry. When she first changed, I thought she had a broken heart. She was a young girl. I couldn't ask why. Why didn't I? I should have talked to her a little bit more, the landlady said. I should have asked her. I am regretful. I am so regretful. It seems that Takako couldn't forget him, the American she met in Tokyo. He was a businessman. He was married. He left her and left Tokyo for Singapore. Was that final phone call a last effort to win him back? Her last chance?
Another factor that came about later in the investigation was the fact that she had written a letter to her family saying that by the time they got the letter, she would be gone, and she apologized.
It could have been that she decided to take an overdose of drugs, that she decided to drink the champagne, that she'd chosen this place to kill herself. But it also may have been that she had something else in mind. Only she knows what she was thinking at the time.
The landlady heard the news a little while later. Takako's mother called back to say her daughter was gone. Gone? She replied that her daughter had died far away, in a cold place, by a lake. An urban legend, that's what she became. How strange. The loneliest of deaths transformed into something famous, into mass entertainment.
Found by a bow hunter.
There was a lot of interest in the case by media. There was media from across the United States and Asia and Europe. For some reason, Takako Kanishi was mysterious. And I don't know if it was a slow news day or what.
Unfortunately, this is real life.
There was that one thing she left behind, a story. But was it true?
I know that she'd had some contacts with law enforcement in North Dakota. They were under the impression that she was looking for some money. People from the outside looking in were fascinated with some aspect of it. I don't know, I haven't seen the movie. So for some reason that portion of it grew to mythical measures, but for us, the investigation was pretty straightforward, and we had a job to do in spite of what anybody else wanted the story to be.
So it was just a series of misunderstandings, something small that somehow led to something big. The whole Fargo treasure story was nothing more than the figment of a well-meaning policeman's imagination, nothing more than a tale that people wanted to believe. The girl who died in urban legend didn't go to Fargo in search of some imaginary treasure from a movie. She went to a place where she'd once been happy, perhaps with her American lover. Maybe she always planned to die in that frozen world, or maybe the idea came to her along the way. We'll never know for sure. I was like everyone else. I wanted to believe in some dreamlike myth about the weirdness, the unrealness of the world we are making for ourselves. If a policeman hadn't mentioned the movie, if it hadn't been a slow news day, you never would have heard about the Japanese girl who died alone in a cold place by a lake.
She falls and dreams alone. And me, I am her dagger. Too numb to feel her pain. World is full of noise, yeah. I hear it all the time.
There is a true story somewhere. There always is. But chances are you won't find it in a movie.